Welcome to Physionic. So today we're going to be discussing the ketogenic diet, but not necessarily the diet, more so a ketogenic state, as in the body being in a ketogenic state or in ketosis. Now, I've gotten requests on covering the ketogenic diet and as it relates to weight loss, fat loss, as well as cancer, epilepsy, and things of that nature. And I will be releasing articles and videos on those topics as well. But before we can actually do that, I think it's incredibly important for us to understand the physiology and understand the bioenergetics, the metabolism of how our body's able to switch to ketone bodies as opposed to using more glucose, or in a low glucose state, how can our body use more ketones? So that is what this video is going to show you. It's going to fascinate you. Hopefully it's going to fascinate you with how your body's able to adapt and why your body might adapt in a situation like this. So as usual, in a short, sweet, science-based video, we're going to go into ketogenesis and ketolysis. One of the fundamental truths about physiology is the need to maintain homeostasis. If that is blood pressure, oxygen delivery, or in this case, nutrient delivery to all of our organs. If this principle is broken, we are in peril of perishing. While we like to think of things as equal in their importance in the body, there is an unspoken hierarchy. The brain is king, emperor, and god to the system. So, naturally, the body's systems work to maintain nutrient delivery to the brain. Unfortunately, most neurons do not oxidize fat readily, so the brain is known to consume primarily glucose for cellular energy. Since this is the case, can you guess what needs to remain in homeostasis? That's right, glucose. Yet, if you purposefully avoid consuming carbohydrates that house glucose, your body must still find a way to maintain energy levels in the brain. So, while it does have the capacity to make its own glucose from other molecules, it also has a backup system known as a ketogenic state. Remember how the brain uses fats weakly? Well, while there are several reasons for that, one major one is the process of breaking down fat can be much longer than the process of oxidizing glucose. So, what if the body was capable of partially breaking down fat to hand deliver a nicely prepared molecular meal for the brain to more simply use? Well, that's exactly what it does. When a fasted or a carbohydrate deficient state occurs for long enough, the body begins to release lipolytic hormones such as glucagon, epinephrine, and others, while decreasing the concentration of insulin. This leads adipocytes to undergo lipolysis, in which they release glycerol and fatty acids into the bloodstream, attached to protein albumin as a carrier. These fatty acids, for the process of ketogenesis, are delivered to ketogenic tissues, of which the liver is the dominant, although there are others. Upon entering the hepatocytes, these fatty acids undergo beta oxidation, as most fats do, which results in acetyl-CoA. This is a crossroads moment in the cell's metabolism, as acetyl-CoA can enter the tricarboxylic acid cycle to produce various products that are key to the production of energy for the liver. But the liver cannot just serve itself, otherwise the brain and other tissues would suffer. So, instead, it begins the process of ketogenesis by taking 2 moles of acetyl-CoA and the aid of the enzyme ACAT, and produces the product acetoacetyl-CoA, which is then further propagated to HMG-CoA by the HMG-CoA synthetase. Interestingly, in the following reaction, an acetyl-CoA is regained as HMG-CoA lyase produces acetoacetate to form our first ketone. Most of this acetoacetate is then made into the common ketone known as beta-hydroxybutyrate by the enzyme beta-hydroxybutyrate dehydrogenase, and a small amount spontaneously becomes the ketone acetone, which is eventually exhaled in the lungs. So we have made 3 ketones, of which 2 are usable for energy. Acetoacetate and beta-hydroxybutyrate are then shipped out of the hepatocyte and freely move to various tissues, but certainly to the brain. Now, because these ketones are, in a sense, partially broken down, the brain can and does readily use them when nutritional glucose intake is severely diminished. Once in the neurons of the brain, or any other ketone oxidizing tissue, both acetoacetate and beta-hydroxybutyrate undergo ketolysis, which is the reverse process using the exact same enzymes, except acetoacetate is acted on by a succinyl-CoA dependent transferase, or SCOT. Admittedly, I like SCOT better. And good old SCOT converts acetoacetate all the way back to acetoacetyl-CoA, eliminating our HMG enzymes from ketogenesis. The final step is again driven by ACAT, and acetyl-CoA is officially dropped off at the top of the tricarboxylic acid cycle and can now undergo decarboxylation for cellular energy in the form of eventual ATP. And now you have a great appreciation for what your body does to preserve your brain, your other organs, and ultimately your existence by reducing the reliance on glucose, and a manner of speaking, pre-digesting fatty acids in the form of ketones to maintain cellular energy. Mind blown? Good. You should be in awe of yourself. So now I hope that you have a better understanding, and not only a better understanding, but that you're actually fascinated by the fact that your body has this ability to switch back and forth and to work around its own limitations to make it a far more potent system, and how it is so able to adapt. And just as a quick point, I didn't mention this in the video, but I have this in the article, that kind of a fun fact, that why doesn't the liver actually feed off of those ketones itself? And the big reason for that is that SCOT enzyme that's found in other tissues is not found, or found in very, very small quantities in the liver. So the liver can't recycle those ketones back to acetyl-CoA and then can't use those acetyl-CoA molecules to be oxidized for energy, unlike other tissues that have abundant amounts of this SCOT enzyme. So the liver is an incredibly self-sacrificing tissue, and that's why if you end up losing your liver for whatever reason, you'll die. It's as simple as that. The liver does a massive amount of stuff, and you just can't live without it. So it's kind of an interesting side point that I wanted to throw in there in case anybody had questions about that. And with that said, I hopefully have the pleasure of seeing you in the very next video, and I wish you a wonderful, wonderful day. See ya.